तस्य चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजाताम् सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदां सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखानुतंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामो राम रामो हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। Very happy and grateful to be amidst all of you all here today once again. Welcome all of you to our Gita classes. As I always say, it will be wonderful to see all of y'all. Whoever among y'all are in a position to keep your cameras on, please do keep them on. It really helps me a lot on a personal level. So it's and of course it will help y'all more importantly because it will keep you attentive and focused. Usually, you know, the mind just wanders all over and it's usually very distracted. So it's always helpful to do anything possible to keep your mind focused and attentive because the subject matters that we are discussing are very, very important for your life perspective. So it's always best to be absorbed in the mood of students. Today we're going to be speaking from again one of the very important characters of the Mahabharat, Yuddhistir. And through the character of Yuddhistir, we will understand so many things that we need to know about our own lives, and so many amazing thoughts that define who this person is, Yuddhistir. In the Mahabharat, we find many characters, and each of these characters have so much to teach us. Like, for example, the Mahabharat has, and interestingly, in the Mahabharat, the name of the character is very much the quality of the character also. So each character has his or her own name. But interestingly, that name defines a lot about the mindset of the person. In today's world, the name and the person have no connection at all, right? So somebody might be called as Lakshmipati, husband of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, but he might be a beggar, you know. Somebody might be called as Amar, and he just died. You know. Somebody might be called as Nayan Sukh, born blind. So our names and our qualities sometimes don't have a connection. But in the very culture, names very much defined the person and their character. Very predictable, you know. So today we're going to study the character of Yuddhisthira. But before we get into the character of Yuddhisthira, let us just run through the names of the five Pandavas and understand a little bit about each of them based on their names. The first one is Yuddhisthira, as we're going to study today. What is the meaning of the word Yuddhisthira? Yuddhisthira comes from two words, Yuddhi and Sthira. The word Yuddhi comes from the word Yuddha. Yuddha means fight. And fight, battles, wars, whatever. And the word Sthira means calm. This essentially means that he is calm in battles. Now, what battle is this? Is this speaking about? This is not just speaking about the wars and the battles that Yuddhistir fought. It's talking about the battle of life. Life itself is a battle, isn't it? Every day is a struggle. You know, the day water doesn't come in your house, in the bathroom, especially when you're in the middle of a bath. How do you remain calm in the middle of that battle? When your maid doesn't come, how do you remain calm in that battle? You know, when your boss has just fired you badly, how do you remain calm in such a battle? Exams next day morning, and there's so much stress. How do you remain calm in such a battle? So, if you know someone who can get easily agitated, that means you're a human being. And if you are one of them, you're definitely a human being. But there are some people, no matter what the battle of life is, they know how to remain calm. Those are Yuddhishtirs of this world. Those are the people who are Yuddhishtirs of this world. So he was always unaffected in the battle and in the battle of life. That is the first character of the Pandavas. Um, for people to remain calm and fearless in a physical battle, probably may be easier than for a person to remain calm and unaffected in a battle of life. So, how does Yudhishthir remain unaffected? One of the reasons why he remains unaffected is because he knows that behind him is the grace of the Lord, is Krishna standing. And because he knows that Krishna is standing behind him, he remains unaffected in the battles of life. The second personality in the amongst the Pandava brothers is Bhima. The word Bhima means big. Everything he did was big. His size was big. The quantity of food he ate was big. And all the tasks that he did in his life was big. A lot of people who are big are not necessarily contributive. In fact, nowadays, being big is a problem. That's what is called obesity, right? A lot of big people are big simply because they don't move around. Bhima was big but extremely agile, and Bhima had a very interesting combination of skills. Very huge, but also quick. When the Pandavas were hiding after the palace of Lac got burned, and the Pandavas were, living in a Brahmana's house in a forest close to the forest in a village. The family was very sad that day. So Kunti asked them, "What happened? Why are you all sad?" Then they explained that in this village, just on the outskirts of this village, is a huge forest in which a demon named Bakasur stayed. So Bakasur was a very powerful demon, and he would walk into the village and randomly eat anybody, carry anybody away. So the villagers had a pact with Bakasur. The pact was that every day they would send one cart load of food and one human being who will take that cart into the forest. And Bakasur could eat all the food in that cart, as well as could eat the human being as a dessert. That was the arrangement. So every day, one person in one family had to go. So this particular day was this family's turn. They had to send their young son to the forest. They're very sad. They're going to lose him. Kunti said, "No, don't worry. My son will go instead." So they were very shocked. And they said, "No, no, no. We can't. You're our guest. We can't do this to you." Kunti said, "Don't worry." Bhima went along with this cart load of food. And all through the way, Bhima had only one thought in his mind. Why am I taking this cart load of food for this stupid demon in the forest when I am always hungry? Bhima had one problem. That he was never ever full. Always felt hungry, And the Pandavas, whatever when they were in the forest, they didn't have much, so they would go and beg in villages, and whatever quantity of food they would gather, Kunti would divide it into two parts. Half of it she would give Bhima, and from the half she would divide it among the other five of herself and the other four. That's how they lived basically. That's Imagine how much Bhima needed quantity of food. So Bhima, when he reached that place where Bakasur was supposed to come, he reached a little bit earlier. So he thought, anyway, this guy is going to eat me and the food. Might as well I eat the food, then he eats me. He gets both anyways, right? So with that logic, Bhima began to eat. He began to eat all the food, huge pots filled with rice and dal. Bhima was eating like anything. And while Bhima was eating, Bakasur came to attack him. And interestingly, Bhima didn't stop eating. He just continued fighting with the left hand. And he continued eating with his right hand. And by the time Bhima finished his food, he had already killed Bakasur. Bakasur was dead over there. Imagine. And the interesting thing is, this is exactly how one should live and practice one's spiritual life. This is Bhima's style of practicing spirituality. What does eating food indicate? Eating food indicates nourishment. And what does fighting against Bakasur indicate? Fighting against Bakasur means resisting bad. So in spiritual life, two things are very important for us to do simultaneously. And both of it has to be done simultaneously. One is nourishing yourself by chanting the holy names, by hearing classes, by absorbing ourselves in spiritual practices. That is nourishing, that is eating. And what is fighting? Fighting against demons is fighting against all the bad habits that we have. We all have bad habits, right? And we all have to deal with those bad habits, fight with those bad habits for us to be able to practice spiritual life nicely. So simultaneously, both has to happen. You have to fight and you have to eat. You fight against the evil, bad habits, and nourish yourself with good nourishment, good food, good substances that will strengthen your spiritual life. The third Pandav among the brothers was Arjun. The word Arjun means spotless one, sparkling one, or spotless one. So Arjun was such a high charactered person that practically he was almost shining, shimmering like a perfect jewel. That's why the word Arjuna is given to him, spotless. Many stories of Arjun's life, of which one story I'll share today. When Arjun went to the heavenly planets and he was in one particular assembly where Indra was sitting and Arjun was sitting along with him on the throne, Indra saw Arjun was looking at this very beautiful Apsara named Urvashi. And Indra sent Urvashi later to meet Arjun, thinking that maybe he's interested in her. And Arjun told her, my dear mother, I never looked at you like that. For me, you are the wife of one of my great ancestors. And therefore, I cannot think of any other way, looking at you. Urvashi was very upset. She is such a beautiful person. And there's nobody in the world that has not been attracted to her. And here is Arjun, and she's going to him. She's going to propose to Arjun. And here is Arjun saying that, sorry, I didn't look at you like that. That's the kind of character that Arjun had. That's the kind of thought process that Arjun had. And therefore, his name is Arjuna. The fourth character among the brothers is Nakula. Nakula was a very extremely handsome person. Extremely handsome. Usually, those who are handsome, they also have a tendency to think a lot about themselves, isn't it? But actually, Nakul was a little different from all those people who are selfish in this world. The word handsome means give your hand to some people. help some people, help some people, raise some people, elevate some people, encourage some people. And that's how Nakul was. Nakul was a person who always helped others, always playing the role of an assistant, always assisting his brothers wonderfully. You know what? When people go to other people's houses, there is one very interesting phenomena that happens that will really help you understand what I'm trying to say. When they see someone in somebody's house, there is a very good servant. Usually the thought is, wow, I wish I had such a good servant. Because most people are so dissatisfied with people working with them. And suppose you find a good servant, a good maid, a good servant, really efficient, really humble, and really, really good, the tendency is to become jealous. Imagine what all people can become jealous of, of all things. So, in this world, to get good assistance is very difficult. You can be a good master, but to get good assistance is very difficult because good assistants are rare in this world. Nakul falls in that category. Extremely handsome, but at the same time, he always gave his hand in help to other people. He loved to assist his brothers. Not so proud about himself, not so arrogant about himself, but he always was eager to assist. The last and the final brother among the Pandavas was Sahadev. Sahadev had a very interesting skill or ability. He could tell the future. He could predict the future. And this is something that very rarely people have the strength about. Very intuitive behavior. Interestingly, at different points during the Mahabharat, we'll find that Sahadev points out that don't do this. When Yuddhistir was entering the gambling arena, Sahadev said, don't enter this hall. There is something wrong here. When they were entering the Lakh Palace, where they were going to be burnt, the moment they stepped in, Sahadev said, I don't feel something is going to go wrong here. The interesting thing about Sahadev, and interesting thing about any astrologer is that they can tell you that something will go wrong, but they can never change the future. An interesting thing about these people is that though they are so intuitive, they don't try to change destiny. They don't try to manipulate the future. They allow it to happen. They only give warnings when the right time comes. That's all. Any good astrologer will never be able to predict your future. They will only be able to give you some warnings. It's up to you how you decide to live your life and based on which your future gets decided. These five brothers lived very interesting lives and their names indicated their personalities. Yuddhisthira, the one who was calm and war. Bhima, the one who was big. Everything he did was big, including his contributions. Arjuna, the spotless one, absolutely spotless character. Nakul, the handsome one, always trying to assist others. Sahadev, the astrologer. One time, Yuddhisthir and his brothers were in exile. So I'm going to tell you all many stories and aspects of Yuddhisthir that will bring out different qualities of Yuddhisthir. And it will help us see this personality in different lights. So Yuddhisthir was once, in the forest. And when he was in the forest, he and his brothers were feeling thirsty at one point. So Yuddhisthir told Nakul to go and get some water. So Nakul went and he was trying to fetch water from a lake. And suddenly, from that lake appeared a crane. The crane began to speak to Nakul and said that you can't take water from this lake because if you take water from this lake without answering my questions, you will die. This lake belongs to me. Nakul was thinking, what is this crane talking? Nakul said, I don't care for you. He was just taking the water like that because he thought it was some strange, maybe some demon or something. He was not scared. He just took the water and he was leaving. and he drank a little bit of that water, immediately he fell dead. And then Sahadev was sent when Nakul didn't come back. The same thing happened with Sahadev. And then Arjun was sent. Arjun also, same thing happened, he died. Bhima was sent, and even Bhima died. After some time, when Yuddhistir saw that four of his brothers have not returned, he himself appeared there. And when Yuddhistir appeared there, that same crane spoke to him. I told him, your four brothers didn't listen to me. You drink this water, you're also going to die. Yuddhistir immediately realized that this is not an ordinary crane. It is not an ordinary bird. He decided to listen to what the bird had to say. And the bird said, I'm going to ask you some questions. If you answer these questions, then I will let you go. And probably I might revive one of your brothers. So the bird revealed himself as Yaksha, a very, very powerful personality. And Yaksha began to ask questions, series of questions to Yudhishthira. And I'm just going to tell you some of the many, many questions that Yaksha asked. And these questions are so amazing. This is a section of the Mahabharat called Yaksha Prashna. And it's like a rapid fire question answer session, with Yuddhishthira Maharaj. And the wisdom of Yuddhishthira is revealed in this discussion, because Yaksha is shooting one after another questions. And Yuddhishthira is just giving such wise answers within a matter of seconds. This will give you a little bit estimate of the wisdom of Yuddhishthira. Yaksha asked, in what is compromised all happiness? In what is comprised all happiness? Yuddhishthira said, character. Yaksha asked, what is the best of all assets? Yuddhishthira said, learning. Yaksha asked, what is the best of all gains in this world? Gain means getting. Yuddhishthira said, health. Yaksha asked, what is the foremost of happiness? Yuddhishthira said, contentment. Yaksha asked, by renouncing which thing does one become lovable? Everyone wants to know, right? How to become lovable in this world. So Yaksha's question is, by renouncing which thing does one become lovable? Yuddhishthira says, pride. You give up pride, you become lovable immediately. Then he says, by renouncing which thing does one never suffer grief? Yuddhishthira said, anger. You give up your anger, you will never become sad. And he said, by renouncing which thing does one become wealthy? This is amazing. You know what Yuddhishthira says? Desire. You give up desire, you suddenly become wealthy. Because what you have, you actually have a lot. But because we have so much desire, we feel we don't have much, basically. So Yaksha asks, by renouncing which thing does one become happy? Yuddhishthira says, avarice. Yaksha asks, what is poison? One word answer. Yuddhishthira says, wants. Wants are poison. I want this, I want that. That's the poison in our life. So many questions Yuddhishthira answered like this. And finally, Yaksha said, I have just few questions more to ask. You answer these few questions, then you can choose one of your brothers and I'll make that person alive. He says, who is happy in this world? Yuddhishthira says, look at this. Who is happy in this world? First, one who has no debt. The one who eats food cooked at home and hot. And third, the one who doesn't travel. Three people. These are three formula to be happy. No debt, hot food cooked at home, and you don't travel too much. That's a source of happiness. And then Yaksha asked, what is the most wonderful thing in this world? Yuddhishthira said, the most wonderful thing in this world is that every single day, thousands of people die. But those who are left, those who are alive still, they feel death won't come to me. That's the most wonderful thing in this world. Isn't that so true? Somehow we see everywhere around us people dying, but somehow our mind convinces us not me. It won't happen to me. And Yudhishthira said, this is the most wonderful thing in this world. Yaksha was so amazed by Yudhishthira's intelligence. He said, choose one brother of yours. I will revive that brother. And Yudhishthira chose Nakul of his four brothers. And Yaksha was shocked. He said, what? You're choosing Nakul of all the four. You could have chosen Bhima, you could have chosen Arjun. They are the ones who are going to be helpful for you in future. How come you chose Nakul? Yudhishthira, look at his answer. He said, I am the son of Kunti. And one of the sons of Kunti is alive. It is only fair if one son of Madri also lives. And therefore I choose Nakul. Imagine, he's trying to be fair to his stepmother who is not even alive. When Yaksha heard this, Yaksha was impressed. And Yaksha said, I'm so impressed with your choice. I revive all four of your brothers. And that is how all the four brothers came back to life, just based on Yudhishthir's choice of choosing the right thing. Yudhishthir's philosophy of life was very simple. Dharma eva hatohanti, dharmo rakshati rakshataha. His policy, his thought of life was, one who destroys dharma is destroyed by dharma, and one who protects dharma is protected by dharma. At one point during the exile, Bhima was very frustrated with Duryodhana and with the very fact that they all exiled. And Bhima was so angry and so frustrated. He actually expressed his frustration to Yudhishthira Maharaj, saying that what nonsense, these people are doing all wrong things and always they are winning. And we are doing all right things, always we are losing. He says, why we are doing right? Let us just go break this 13 years rule and all, we'll go and fight with them and kill all of them. He was like really upset and angry. And that is the time Yudhishthira spoke this. Yudhishthira said, if you protect dharma, dharma will protect you. And if you destroy dharma, dharma will destroy you. Yudhishthira always lived by this principle that no matter what, I always will follow the rule of dharma. Yuddhistir Maharaj, in his most amazing thought process, always lived based on what is good for others, what is useful, beneficial, right for others, and that is the nature of Yuddhistir Maharaj. When Yuddhistir was young, when they were small, and they were getting trained under Dronacharya, at that point, Dronacharya arranged a test. The test was very simple. He called Duryodhan first. And he told Duryodhan, I want you to go into the kingdom and find one person who is better than you. Duryodhan went around the whole kingdom and he came back with a whole list of names, hundreds of people he had met. And he said, I'm sorry, I couldn't even find one person better than me, because every person I saw had one fault which I didn't have. Imagine, Duryodhan managed to find faults with every single person he met. And Dronacharya called Yuddhistir and told him, I want you to go into the kingdom and find at least one person who is worse than you. Yuddhistir went out and he came back and he said, I'm sorry, I couldn't even find one person worse than me, because every person I saw had one good quality which I didn't have. Yuddhistir managed to find one good in every single person. Dronacharya said, I have found both of them. He told Duryodhan, the one person who is better than you is Yuddhistir. And he told Yuddhistir, the one person who is worse than you is this fellow, Duryodhan. Because the idea is here, the lesson that we learn from the story is very important. It says, our analysis of others are often expressions of our own needs and values. When we look at others and look at faults of others, actually those faults exist in us. Therefore, we are able to identify them in others. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the guru of Srila Prabhupada, would often say that when you find faults in others, you should remember that you are honeycombed with faults. What is the meaning of honeycombed with faults? You've seen honeycombs? Very tightly knit, right? That's how honeycombs are. That means we have so many faults in ourselves, that we actually find it so easily in others. And therefore it is said that whatever you look in others, you identify in others, it eventually becomes a part of you. If you find good in others, it becomes a part of you. If you find bad in others, that becomes a part of you. And therefore, one has to be very careful when one deals with other people's faults. Yudhishthir at some point became the emperor of the world. They conducted a Rajasuya sacrifice, massive Rajasuya sacrifice. And though the Pandavas were cheated, but somehow they made that Khandavaprat, which was a useless, barren piece of land, into Indraprastha. And when it became Indraprastha, Yudhishthir became the Chakravarti Samrat, practically the king of the whole world. And the Rajasuya sacrificial ceremony is very interesting. That shows us how Yudhishthir thinks. Every person in that assembly was given different sevas, different services. And Yudhishthir saw to it that every single person who came to that assembly, they actually got so much benefit. They were served like anything. They were given gifts. They were taken very, very good care. Of course, during the Rajasuya sacrifice, there was one person who was very envious, and that was Duryodhana. Because Duryodhana, he was made in charge of collecting gifts. Because Yudhishthir knew this guy likes to take a lot, So he gave him the department of collecting gifts. So Yudhishthir gave departments according to the inclination of a person, He gave Bhima a cooking department because he loved to be in the kitchen, He would like to eat a lot. So he gave him seva of cooking. Arjun was, given the department of receiving guests. Krishna was given the department of washing the feet of all the sages. So like that, different people were given different departments. Duryodhana's department was collecting gifts. And the number of gifts that came to Yudhishthir was mind-blowing. And Duryodhana was going mad looking at every gift that is coming, And imagine the envy of Duryodhana. He remembered who gave what gift. And he remembered it for days together. I mean, imagine at a birthday party, so many people give so many gifts, right? How do you remember who gave what, And especially if there are thousands of gifts. But Duryodhana recalled every single gift and who gave it to Yudhishthir. And he was becoming so envious of Yudhishthir because that's the nature of envy. The nature of envy is that it doesn't allow you to be happy at others' prosperity. So Duryodhana was so irritated and so upset that when he was taking a stroll around the Maya Sabha, the whole palace that was created by Maya Danav, the most amazing, miraculous palace, Duryodhana was experiencing great envy in his heart. And of course, during one of those times while he was roaming around, he by mistake fell into a pool of water thinking it is floor. And everybody started laughing at him. Yudhishthir was not like the rich people of today's world. And there's this person who is the Sultan of Brunei. Just imagine, he has 5,000 cars, 367 Ferraris, 362 Bentleys, 185 BMWs, 177 Jaguars, 160 Porsches, 130 Rolls-Royce cars, 20 Lamborghini cars. Now imagine, of course, this guy also has a fully gold-plated bathroom in his private jet. Tell me, if you have so many cars, what will you do with it? What will you do with so much? Beyond a certain point, it's only numbers, right? Money gives you comfort and security to a certain point. Beyond a certain point, it's only numbers. It doesn't really matter how much more you have. The idea of wealth is very much connected with the idea of compassion. Ideally, we should earn with integrity and spend with compassion. When we spend, don't spend to show others how much you have. It'll attract envy. Spend to serve others. Look at these people who have so much. Here is a lady, Imelda Marcos, her name is. This lady has over 3,000 shoes. You need to be a Virat Roop to be able to wear those 3,000 shoes. If you're not the Virat Roop of the Lord, you don't need 3,000 shoes, literally. Here is this lady who was the wife of the king of Saudi, Abdullah, his name is. So he gave her on her birthday a dress that was costing $30 million. To translate it into rupees, 191 crore 91 lakh rupees. One dress. Imagine, So Yudhishthir was not like this. Yudhishthir's idea of money was very different from what we all know of. It's amazing that Yudhishthir, when he was being exiled to the forest, when they lost everything, they had nothing with them. They were beggars, literally. He was crying. And you know why Yudhishthir was crying? The people were asking him, why you are crying? He had only one thing to say. That shows what kind of a person he is. You know what he said? He said, now I don't know how I'm going to take care of 10,000 Brahmanas that I promised them, that I'll take care of them. He was worried about 10,000 people that he has to take care of when he became a beggar. How many of us are going to be worried about others when we become beggars? We are worried about our own food, right? Our own maintenance. But this is what Yudhishthir is. This is the kind of person that Yudhishthir is. And therefore, the lesson that we learn from Yuddhistir and this aspect of Yuddhistir is that Yuddhistir had this policy in life: earn with integrity and spend with compassion. And Duryodhan had this policy in life: earn with duplicity and spend with passion. And this defines the two of them and their mindsets very clearly. Yuddhistir, at some point when he became when he became the emperor of this world, something happened that made him take a decision that really brought a lot of pain to the Pandavas. And when you understand what happened in that assembly, you will really appreciate Yudhishthir even more. So as I said, Duryodhan, he came back from that assembly of Yuddhistir Maharaj Rasyo Sabha, and he was frustrated. He complained to his father like mad. In fact, he told his father that I want to die. Father said, why do you want to die? He said, how can I live after seeing Yuddhistir so opulent and so successful that I can't live anymore? And you know what the father said? The father said, come on, what do you have shortage of? You have all the wealth in the world. You have all the women you want in the world. You have all the best of food in the world. What do you need? Father is telling the son like this. Imagine how the father has spoiled the son, giving him, pampering him too much, by giving him everything he wants. Duryodhan said, I will only be peaceful when Yuddhisthir is destroyed. That is how Duryodhan got his uncle Shakuni to invite the Pandavas for a gambling match. Shakuni, he said, I'll take care of them, just get them here. And the interesting thing is, when Vidura was sent to invite Yuddhisthir for the gambling match, Yuddhisthir said yes immediately for a reason. In fact, two reasons. One reason is something happened in the Rajasuya sacrifice, which hardly anybody knows in the Mahabharata. For all those who are students of Mahabharata, for those who have seen the TV serial and learned Mahabharata, for all those who have read cartoons and learned Mahabharata, or for those who have learned from their grandmothers and grandfathers, most people don't know this story. But this is the turning point of the Mahabharata, actually. Unfortunately, people don't know this story. When the Rajasuya sacrifice happened, Shishupal was present there. And Shishupal was very envious of Krishna. Very, very envious of Krishna. Because Krishna was Shishupal's uncle, sorry. And Shishupal was Krishna's nephew. But Shishupal had a childhood prophecy which declared that if he is, so when Shishupal was born, he had some extra limbs in his body. He had 2 extra hands, he had 2 extra legs, and he had 1/3 eye. So the child was looking very ugly, basically. If you're not Vishnu, you will look ugly with extra limbs, basically. So here, Shishupal is looking very strange, very scary boy. So his mother went to some sages and asked the sages, what is this? How come such a child has been born to me? The sages said, don't worry, nothing to worry. This child, the extra limbs of this child will fall off in some time. So Shishupal's mother felt a little bad, a little good. And then the sage said, but there's a problem. That somebody will pick up this child, and as soon as that person picks up the child, these extra limbs will fall off. But the person who picks up the child and the limbs fall off, that person will be the cause of your child's death. So Shishupal's mother was really in anxiety. And eventually, Krishna comes to his aunt's house. And he picks up Shishupal, this child. And as soon as Krishna picks up Shishupal, these extra limbs fall off. And immediately Shishupal's mother comes and falls at Krishna's feet. And she says, please, please don't kill my son. Krishna said, why will I kill your son? I mean, he's just born now. I mean, why will I kill your son? The mother said, please promise me you will never kill my son. Krishna said, see, I can't promise anything now. I don't know what he's going to do in the future, you know. But he said, because you have asked me, I will forgive him 100 times. If he makes 100 mistakes, I will forgive him. But he crosses 100 mistakes, then I will not forgive him. Mother said, that's good enough. I mean, who makes 100 mistakes at a time, right? So Shishupal kept this in his mind all his life. And whenever he came across Krishna anywhere, you would start giving him bad words. But Shishupal always kept a counter and counted 99. Exactly 99 bad words he would give. And the moment he would reach 99, he would keep quiet. And obviously Krishna couldn't kill him. But when this Rajasuya sacrifice happened of Yuddhistir Maharaj, that day, something happened which triggered Shishupal's anger too much. Yuddhistir declared Krishna to be the most honorable person in the universe. So in the Rajasuya sacrifice, there's one particular vidhi where the king is supposed to give the first argya to the senior-most person in the assembly. So the king was asked, Yuddhisthira was asked, whom do you want to give the first argya to? It's a very respectable, ritual. Immediately Yuddhisthira said Krishna. Though there was Vyasdev there was Bhishma there was Brahma there was so Narad Muni, so many exalted people, but still Yuddhisthira decided to honor Krishna because he knew that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Shishupal couldn't handle it. You know, Ghar ki murgi dal barabar, right? Whether you are Krishna or whether you are anybody else in this world, your own relatives will never respect you. Shishupal got so wild at Krishna. He said, this fellow, you are honoring him. He is a thief. He has stolen butter from other people's houses. He is, he has done this. He lifted one stone and they're saying he lifted a mountain. So he started giving so many bad words to Krishna. And he lost count. And the moment he crossed 100, Krishna Sudarshan Chakra came and cut off his head, basically. So that Rajasuya Yajna was a place where blood spilled. Blood of Shishupal spilled there. So all the sages there, they were very worried that blood spill has happened in such a pure yajna. And they asked Krishna, what is this? Blood has spilled. Krishna said, no, now the yajna has become, now this place has become pure because Shishupal is dead. Obviously, Vyasdev, that time he gave Yuddhisthira a warning. He told Yuddhisthira, Vyasdev told Yuddhisthira, you should be ready for a lot of blood spill because you will be the cause of a lot of blood spill in this world. Now, this was too much for Yuddhisthira, who was technically Mahatma Gandhi of the Mahabharat. Yuddhisthira couldn't handle this pronouncement of Vyasdev. He said, I am going to be responsible for a lot of bloodshed. I don't want to be. And that moment, without consulting anybody, Yuddhisthira took a vow. You know what vow Yuddhisthira took? The vow he took was, whatever my elders say, I will follow it as it is. This is the vow he took. And you know why he took this vow? He took this vow because he felt fight will happen only if I don't listen to elders. If I just follow what the elders say, there's no reason to fight only. I will just do whatever my elders say. That's what he took. Like a blind vow he took. And this is the vow that Duryodhan took advantage of. So Duryodhan sent Vidura, who is an elder, with an instruction from the king, Dhritarashtra, who is also an elder, calling the Pandavas for a gambling match. Now, two elders giving instruction. Yuddhisthira couldn't say no. Why? He just took a vow that I'll follow whatever the elders say. So that is how Duryodhana and Shakuni made Yuddhistir come to that assembly. The second reason why Yuddhisthira came to the assembly was Vyasadeva says this, that he had a weakness for gambling. All of us have a weakness for something, right? Somehow Yuddhisthira loved this sport. He loved it. He was not good at it at all, but he loved it. So Duryodhana knew that this is his weakness. And therefore, somehow your relatives know all your weaknesses, isn't it? And your relatives only take advantage of your weaknesses most of the times. Yeah. The closest people to you, they are the ones who know your greatest weaknesses. What was Yudhishthira's weakness? Two things. One, he couldn't say no to elders. And second, he had an attraction towards gambling already. So when Duryodhana called Yuddhisthira for this gambling match, the gambling match was a total cheating. Right in the beginning itself, cheating began. Duryodhana said, on my behalf, Shakuni will play. So Yudhishthira said, this is cheating. He said immediately, this is cheating. And then Duryodhana said, let's ask father, Dhritarashtra, he's elder, let us see what he says. And as usual, Dhritarashtra said, yeah, it's fine. And then now what Yudhishthira could say, elders are saying it's fine, then it's fine. He kept quiet. That is how every time a rule was being broken in that assembly, somehow Duryodhana kept getting Dhritarashtra in between and kept playing the card of elders. Interestingly, in the gambling match, something interesting was happening. As I said, Sahadev, as soon as they entered, he told Yudhishthira, something disastrous is going to happen here. But Yudhishthira said, no, don't worry, elders are here. They will protect us. Yudhishthira had a lot of faith in elders, which is good, which is very good. But if you don't know whether your elders are worth trusting, then it's bad. So Yudhishthira now, when he started gambling, Shakuni was throwing the dice. Shakuni's dice was empowered. Shakuni could get any number he wants. And whenever he threw the dice, this is where something interesting happened. In the dice, there were 4 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, basically. 4 numbers in this dice. And in both the dice, there were 4 numbers. So Yudhishthira had to choose a number. Every time the dice was rolled, Yudhishthira kept saying 2 numbers only. He kept saying 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. He was stuck on 3, 4. And Shakuni made sure 3, 4 never came. It was always 1, 2. There is a reason why Yudhishthira was stuck on 3, 4. Because the 4 numbers in Yudhishthira's mind represent the 4 yugas. And 3, 4 is Treta and Satya. 3 is Treta Yuga and 4 is Satya Yuga. 1 is Kali Yuga and 2 is Dwapar Yuga. So Yudhishthira could not select Kali and Dwapar. He kept selecting Treta and Satya. Why? Because he was a righteous person. Kali and Dwapar are yugas where a lot of wrong happens, right? So interestingly, Dharma stands on 4 pillars. If you can see on the chart in front of you, these are the 4 pillars on which Dharma stands. These 4 pillars represent the 4 yugas actually. Satya Yuga, number 4, pillar of cleanliness. Treta Yuga, number 3, the pillar of austerity. Dwapar Yuga, number 2, the pillar of compassion. And Kali Yuga, number 1, the pillar of truth. Essentially, what it means is that in Satya Yuga, Dharma is standing on 4 pillars. 1, 2, 3, 4. All 4 pillars are present in Satya Yuga. In Treta Yuga, 1 pillar goes down. Only 3 pillars are there. That means cleanliness pillar goes away in Treta Yuga. Only austerity, compassion, truth is left. In Dwapar Yuga, austerity also goes away. Only 2 are left. Compassion and truth is left. And in Kali Yuga, compassion also goes away. Only 1 is left. Truth. Today, people don't care about cleanliness. Do they? Does anyone care about cleanliness? You go around Bombay, you'll understand. Today, people don't care about austerities. Who does austerities? Everyone's drinking, everyone's doing whatever they want. Who does austerities today? Today, no one cares about compassion. Animals are being killed left, right, center. Humans are being killed left, right, center. Where's the question of compassion today? The only thing people today, even today, respect is truth. That is the only thing in Kali Yuga that is respected. Cleanliness is not respected, compassion is not respected, austerity is not respected. Only truth is respected, and that truth that is going down slowly, slowly, slowly. Right? By the end of Kali Yuga, truth also is gone. All four pillars are gone. So Yuddhistir was stuck in 3 and 4. Why? That's what his mindset was. He was always in Satya Yuga and Treta Yuga. He couldn't go beyond Treta Yuga. But Shakuni's mindset was Dwapar and Kali. And therefore he was putting 1, 2 all the time. And that is why Yuddhistir kept losing all the time. And finally, when Yuddhistir lost everything, finally it was time for losing his own relatives. So he started waging the Pandavas. He started waging himself. Then he waged Draupadi also. So why was he waging again and again and again? Because what was happening was the Kauravas, headed by Duryodhana, were instigating him a lot. They were telling him, that's all, you're giving up. So every time he decided that I want to give up, they kept instigating him. Oh, you're giving up. So easily you're giving up. He already had a passion for gambling. So he didn't want to give up also. But at the same time, the elders were not allowing him to give up also. So Yuddhisthira is caught between all these emotions. His own weakness for gambling and his obedience to the elders. Both of it was taken full advantage by Duryodhana and Shakuni. And that is how the Pandavas ended up losing every single thing. When we discuss the story of Draupadi, we'll discuss the story of the disrobing of Draupadi and the whole episode that led to the disrobing in more details. But all said and done, the point is that the Pandavas lost everything. They were exiled to the forest for 13 years. And in those 13 years, while they were being exiled to the forest for 13 years, all the Pandavas were walking away very sad and dejected. And interestingly, Yuddhisthira was the only one who was covering his face with a cloth. Now you might wonder, why is Yuddhisthira covering his face with a cloth while walking away from Hastinapur? Very interesting reason. That again shows how he thinks. Yuddhisthira, he is Dharmaraj. He is Dharma personified. And it is explained that if he looks at anyone or anything with anger, that place gets destroyed. That person gets destroyed. Yuddhisthira covered his face because he didn't want to look at anyone and become the cause of pain to somebody. Imagine what a person. Here is a person who has lost everything, who himself has nothing now, but he is covering his face because he didn't want his eyes to fall on anyone and cause damage, cause pain to them, cause loss to them. And that is how Yuddhisthira thinks. So Yuddhisthira is a personification of Dharma. And whatever choices he makes it thinking of fairness. Even at the end of the Mahabharat war, when the whole war was over, and only Duryodhana was left to fight. Right? He was hiding inside the lake, basically. And when the Pandavas went and found him, they pulled him out of the lake. After being pulled out of the lake, now the war cannot get over till Duryodhana is alive. So they decided to have a fight with Duryodhana, one-on-one fight. And you know what Yuddhisthira did? Duryodhana told Yuddhisthira, I'm challenging you all for a one-on-one fight. Any of you all can come and fight with me. You know what Yuddhisthira did? Yuddhisthira wanted to be fair to Duryodhana also. He told him, choose any one among us. Yuddhisthira said, what a person this is. Imagine if Duryodhana had chosen Nakul. What would have happened? There was no chance Nakul could have won against Duryodhana in mace fighting. But fortunately, Duryodhana chose Bhima because his ego didn't allow him to choose anybody else, basically. But look at Yudhishthira's fairness. Look at Yudhishthira's thought process that even at that stage in his life, he's thinking of being fair. So essentially, there are three very important ways in which we can look at the whole gambling match episode, especially. Vyasdev is a very interesting person. A lot of people say Mahabharata is very one-sided literature. It only talks about goodness of some people. It talks about badness of some people. They say, how can Duryodhan be only bad? And how can Yudhishthir be only good? Mahabharata is a very fair book. And Mahabharata is a very honest book. If Vyasdev wanted to hide something, he would have ideally hidden this weakness of Yudhishthir, the weakness towards gambling. But many times in the Mahabharata, Vyasdev talks about Yudhishthir Maharaj's weakness for gambling, which means Vyasdev is not trying to hide anything. In fact, Vyas could have hidden about his own birth, right? If you remember, we spoke about this. His birth was not a great birth. He shouldn't have told about his birth if he really wanted to hide things. But Vyasdev is just presenting facts as they are. So the first thing that we can learn is how, from a human perspective, the gambling has such bad ill effects. The second thing that we can learn from a heavenly perspective is that Yudhishthir is Dharmaraj. He is the representation of the destructive energy of Yama. Yudhishthir is Yamaraj himself, right? The son of Yama. And therefore, because he is the destructive energy of Yamaraj, and therefore, he became the instrument of such a massive war. And from a divine perspective, Yudhishthir allowed himself to be a pawn in the hands of Lord Krishna to be used as Krishna wanted. Imagine Yudhishthir lived a life, all his life, he never spoke a single lie. But when Krishna told him to tell a lie on the battlefield, he spoke it. He hesitated for one moment. Of course, he did hesitate. Because, imagine somebody had never spoken a lie ever before. For you and me, speaking lies is like, normal. Like it's like eating chocolate. We speak lies randomly here and there. But for Yudhishthir to speak a lie is like impossible. He can't fathom that idea that I can speak a lie. So when Krishna told him to speak a lie, he hesitated for one moment. It is explained Yudhishthir's chariot always floated 1 inch above the ground. Yudhishthir's chariot was never on the ground level. It is always floating 1 inch above the ground. But the moment Yudhishthir hesitated to tell that lie, when Krishna asked him to tell, the chariot actually fell on the ground. It didn't fall on the ground because he lied. It fell on the ground because he hesitated to lie for one moment when Krishna asked him to lie. And then he lied. Which means, for the pleasure of Krishna, he was ready to break even the most important principle that he believed in. Why? Because he wanted to act as an instrument in the hand of Krishna. And therefore, from this we learn a very, very important lesson that all of us, no matter who you are, there is always some weakness in us. We do have some weaknesses in ourselves, and we have to deal with those weaknesses. And therefore, from the human perspective, we saw Yudhishthir was attached to gambling. From a heavenly perspective, he was son of Dharma. So whatever happened through him. And from a divine perspective, it was Krishna's plan that Yudhishthir was falling in alignment with. After the whole war got over, and Yudhishthir won the war, he became the king. He came to grandfather Bhishma to take his blessings. And there, as he was with his grandfather, you know what he was doing? He was crying. He was crying that I am the cause of all the loss, so many people's deaths. So now he was having regret, he was having remorse, even though he was right. He was having regret, even though he was instructed, authorized by Krishna to do it. So that means no matter who we are, when we do the wrong thing, there has to be some level of remorse and regret in our hearts. Of course, Yudhishthira was not doing the wrong thing, but look at his thought process. He was feeling responsible for the loss. He was feeling responsible for the pain. He was feeling responsible for all the bloodshed that happened. And that's how Yuddhistir was as a human being. And finally, the last story, which gives us the last message of Yuddhistir's life, is an amazing story. When they were going towards the north, as they were ascending towards the north, one by one, all the Pandavas started dying. You know, this was the final journey of their lives. So the Pandavas, the Kurukshetra war happened at one point where when the Pandavas were, Arjun was approximately about 125 years of age, you know, and then they continued ruling for 36 years. After 36 years of rule, Krishna left this world. Krishna winded up his pastimes and went back to the spiritual world. The moment Krishna left, the Pandavas said, we are winding up our life also. The Pandavas handed over the kingdom to Parikshit Maharaj, who was their son, the only heir left to the throne. And they all walked to the north, towards the Himalayas. And as they were walking to the north, there was one dog that was following them. The dog followed them throughout the whole journey. Interestingly, as they were walking up the mountain, one by one, different people started falling. Draupadi fell first, then Arjun fell, then Bhima fell, Nakul Sahadev fell. All of them fell one by one. And Yuddhistir kept walking till the end. And he and the dog reached right till the summit of the mountain. On the peak of the mountain, a chariot appeared to take Yuddhistir to the heavens. And when the chariot appeared to take Yuddhistir to the heavens, Yuddhistir turned around to the dog and he thanked the dog for coming with him all the way, accompanying him all the way. The dog spoke to Yuddhistir, very interestingly. The dog spoke to Yuddhistir and told Yuddhistir, see, you are going to the heaven now, but I have a problem. Can you solve my problem before you go? You are my king. Yuddhistir said, yeah, please tell me what can I do for you before I go. He said, on my body, I have a lot of ticks, you know, these lices. Can you remove them? They're biting me too much. Imagine, just before going to heaven also, what all you have to do in this world, you know. So Yuddhistir actually sat down and removed all the insects from the body of the dog and put it on the floor. And he was going to go. Then the insects spoke to Yuddhistir. And the insects said, hey, wait a minute. We are also your subjects. You have taken us all out of the body of the dog. But in this mountain, what will be our food? You make some arrangement for us also before you go. You know what Yuddhistir did? Yuddhistir took all those insects and put them on his own body. That is Yuddhistir. That is the kind of person that Yuddhistir was. Even in the last moment of his life, he was thinking of helping others. How many of us, till the last moment of our life, we live a life trying to serve others and help others? I don't think any of us even think of others when we are in pain, isn't it? That's Yuddhistir. Hare Krishna. I'll stop here. We can have some question answers and discussions.